Canada will always be ready to defend the rights to peacefully protest. This is what an ignorant Justin Trudeau had declared when India faced farmers' protests that were allowed to be continued by a democratic Indian system for over a year. But what did Trudeau actually do when actually faced with peaceful protests? He followed his family tradition of imposing emergency and suspending civil liberties. This is merely an introduction to the hypocrite called Justin Trudeau. Hi and welcome to TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host PIYUSH, and in this video I will tell you about Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Indira Gandhi moment. You will find many Just-Indira Trudeau tweets if you log into the micro-blogging app, and you might also find some morphed images. So why is the Canadian Prime Minister being compared to former Prime Minister of India Indira Gandhi? Well, as it turns out, Trudeau is having his own emergency moment. On June 25, 1975, former Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had invoked national emergency across the country. What had followed was a stifling of dissent, government crackdown on individual freedoms, and unlimited exercise of state power. And now, Trudeau has invoked rare emergency powers in Canada. But it is the reason behind Trudeau's invocation of emergency powers that sounds amusing. Canada is presently facing truckers' protest called the Freedom Convoy, the ongoing demonstration that has been organized to protest against social restrictions and vaccine mandates to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. The protest has hindered cross-border trade and has left the Justin Trudeau government miffed. So the Canadian PM has announced a state of emergency in peacetime. A series of tough measures have been rolled out, including freezing protest-linked accounts without a court order and assistance of federal police in clearing the protests. Not just this, Trudeau can also take away the right to peacefully assemble, freedom of traveling, and right to use particular property. The Trudeau family has a thing for invoking emergencies that take away civil liberties of Canadian citizens. Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father too, had imposed emergency in October 1970. He had invoked the War Measures Act at the time. But there is a key difference. Pierre Trudeau had used the earlier law to dispatch armed forces in context of political abduction of a British diplomat and a Quebec minister by a terror outfit called FLQ. On the other hand, Justin Trudeau has imposed emergency in an attempt to crack down on peaceful protests and deprive truckers of their freedom to assemble and raise their voice. Interestingly, when India was witnessing farmers' protests, Justin Trudeau and other people in his government like Jagmeet Singh used to ridicule India. They used to express concern about the demonstration and also claimed that they advocated the right to protest. India, however, allowed farmers to protest for over a year at key highway junctions near Delhi. But what did Trudeau do when he faced small-scale protests? Well, he crumbled within a month of the Freedom Convoy. So what if the key US-Canada border crossings are shut? What if parts of Canada's capital are paralyzed? After all, Trudeau claims to be the epitome of democratic sentiment. Why should he place economic interests over law and order management? But guess what Trudeau said? He claimed the blockades are harming our economy and endangering public safety. He also said, we cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue. This is borderline racism on Trudeau's part. If protests take place in India, they become a matter of freedom and liberties, and he starts his condescending propaganda. But if Canadian truckers carry out a demonstration, it suddenly becomes illegal and dangerous. Yet, it is Trudeau and his mindset which seems to be dangerous for Canada, and his hypocrisy gets exposed for everyone to see.